Walker.
Here.
Guerra. Here. Paul. Here. Manistee.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Manistee.
Here. Here. Okay, under the meeting agenda tonight, we have item A under communications and announcements, a letter from Kelly Sobel, Executive Director of the City Tax Commission. Under department and committee reports, A, the water department report, you've got the wage trim monthly report included in your packet. The fire department is item B. Item C, office of zoning, the zoning administrator. Item D, planning commission. Item E, building and grounds committee. F, downtown development authority. G, PEG commission. H, the sewer project. Under unfinished business, we have item A, consideration of approval of the presented water tank maintenance contracts between the Charter Township of Filer and Utility Service Company Incorporated for the Red Apple Road and the Filer City Road water towers. Under new business, we have item A, consideration of approval of the appointment of one planning commission member to serve a 3-year term ending December 31st of 2017. Item B is consideration of approval of the appointment of 3 Board of Review members to serve 2-year terms ending December 31st, 2016. Consideration of approval of the appointment of 2 Downtown Development Authority members to serve 4-year terms ending December 31st of 2018. Item D, consideration of approval of a resolution of the Charter Township of Filer Board of Trustees pursuant to resolution number 2001-06A in 1954 Public Act 188 as amended, redetermining the total cost of services for the year 2015 and directing the supervisor to extend such costs upon the Horizon Point special assessment roll. And then we also have 2 items separate that we need to add as addendum items. I'm sorry, that's on the consent agenda. Ignore that, please. Unless you have something else to add to the meeting agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion by Cruz, second by Skira to approve the meeting agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under the consent agenda tonight, we have item A, the minutes of the regular board meeting from November 6th. The B, the financial report. C is approval of the township general fund expenditures, including the fire department, checks 31824 through 31914, with accounts payable at $41,378.77 and payroll at $13,974.48 for a total of $55,353.25. Item D is approval of water department expenditure checks 2053 through 2064 totaling $39,850.33. Item E, appointments, appointment of Ruben Ramon to the Building and Grounds Committee for a 4-year term ending December 31st, 2018. That's the only vacancy on the Building and Grounds Committee, and Ruben was the only application. Item F is approval to transfer $15,000 from the fund balance of the general fund to all other township repair and maintenance. And then on the addendum items, we have G, consideration of approval of a request from Linda DeVries proposing to add an 8:30 a.m. jazzercise class on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings with a rec hall rental fee of $6.25 per class. Proposed additional morning classes would be held only on the days that the rec hall is already being rented for the jazzercise program. In the evening, there are no new days of the week that will be added. And then item H is consideration of approval of holding a fire department appreciation dinner on Sunday, January 18th, to be catered by Zupan's Catering at a cost of $18 per person. Any other additions to the consent agenda or any questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval then.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Kalinowski, second by Cruz to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, under communications announcements, the letter that you have in your packet from Kelly Sobel is pretty much standard procedure concerning the 2014 AMAR report. And you can see the results of that report. Bruce is filed with the Tax Commission. And at this point, we need to consider going into closed session to deal with a couple of issues with Richard and Mr. Millar. So at this point, we would need a motion to...
Yeah, the motion should be to go into closed session pursuant to, I believe it's Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act, to discuss our attorney-client privilege letter, as well as the draft resolution that Mr. Millar sent to us that would, I believe, be part of a potential settlement of the Gale versus Filer Township matter, all of which are related, of course.
So, do we have a motion?
Support.
Okay, motion by Cruz, support by Williams to enter into closed session. Shirley, can you call the roll, please?
Scarrow,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Ball, yes. Walker,
Yes.
Paczynski,
Yes.
Kalinowski.
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to adjourn.
Adjourned in closed session. Okay, we need a motion to enter into open session.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Paczynski, second by Skira to resume open session of the board meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Let's see, so we are at public comment. Is there public comment at this time?
Can you
Yes, sir.
give us any information on what your meeting was just about, the veterans part of it?
Not really. That's why we went into closed session.
Then is the suit over, finally settled?
No.
Okay.
Anyone else? Public comment? Okay, then moving into department committee reports, you have a copy of the wage trim report in your packet, the monthly report. Any questions or concerns there? Okay, item B, the fire department report, Ron?
I understand they did get a their department report in your packet.
No.
I faxed it over last Monday to Lynn. I don't know if it didn't go through. I didn't call her and check, so I will, when I fax it over each month, I will check with her and make sure you got it. We had a total of 23 emergency calls. 15 of those were medical. We had one structure fire in the city of Manistee, one structure fire in Filer, one motor vehicle fire, 3 false alarms, one personal injury car accident, and one carbon monoxide alarm. Basically, that's pretty much the extent of my report. We do have an issue with the new drain. They never paved it. Ron Brown never came and paved it, and now the asphalt is breaking up around the edges. I'm not sure what the cure is for that.
Okay, and that has not been coal patched yet?
No.
Okay.
And then it's starting around the edges, especially on the street side of it. I assume they can still do that at some point. So, other than that, we're doing improvements to the interior of the station, painting and cleaning up and stuff like that, in preparation for the installation of the new carpet that we purchased earlier in the year. Other than that, things are rolling really well. We are updating our training schedule. We are preparing to begin doing our winter inside training. That's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
I get the mutual aid agreement with the city squared away. Is that?
It's supposed to be at the city council meeting today. So, and then that will be coming back to you. There was two minor changes that were requested by the city attorney. Richard worked on that with Mr. Saylor, and so that should be, so that we're both sides. They're basically, one was to clarify the fact that if the city comes to Filer and breaks some of their equipment, they're responsible for those repairs. If we go to the city and break some of our equipment, we're responsible for our own repairs. The other was that the other thing was that we provide our own insurance for our own firefighters. Basically, basic liability issues that are going to be clarified in the new agreement. That's all I have.
So you'll be bringing that agreement back?
Yes, and I'll give everyone a copy and prior to the meeting, so you can read it over before that.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, in your package you have the zoning administrator's report, and you can see that it has not been a whole lot of activity for the past month there. We have the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting from November 18th in your packet. Shirley, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Well, only that this coming month in December, Lynn Wilson from Mead and Hunt will be here. We'll be going over the master plan updates, the 5-year updates that are needing to be done. I don't think it'll be more than a one visit for her, but it will be coming up at the December meeting.
Okay, that's the 16th.
Sounds right?
Okay, thank you. Building and grounds, you have the minutes in your packet of the building and grounds meeting from November 24th. Ed, is there anything you want to add to that report? Or to those minutes?
Oh, that we got our delivery of our new generator for well number 4, which is much bigger than anything we've got so far. And we're working on them doors. You can't get people to work. Or they'll work, but at their convenience.
I don't know if you had any conversation with Bob today. met Tuesday?
Yesterday I talked to him.
Okay, and he and Chuck Owens took a look at that door over there at the rec center.
The rec center.
Yeah,
The roof is done,
yes.
also
it was
at
done.
the rec center. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. And item F, you have the minutes of the Downtown Development Authority meeting from November 6th. Anything there? Okay, PEG Commission.
We'll be working on our budget plan for the next year. The equipment and hardware looks pretty good at this time. Yeah, that's about it.
One thing to add, we have a new producer, Doug Hanna, has done a show we call the Manistee Children's Chorus. It's a really nice program. It hasn't been on TV yet, however, it is online if you want to just check it out. And also we have at least one opening on the PEG Commission. There might even be two, I'm not sure that at this point. So if you have anybody else in Fowler that wants to join the PEG Commission, tell them to contact me or Dean or Dale, anybody.
Anybody wants to join, I'll be glad to sign you up.
I'll bet you will.
Good big bucks, you know.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Sewer project, we did meet last month and looked at a couple different proposals, and we'll be meeting again next, I believe it's Wednesday of next week, if I recall, December 10th. Okay, moving into unfinished business. You have in your packet a copy of the proposal from Utility Service Company Incorporated. There are two proposals there, one for the Filer City Road tank and one for the Red Apple Road tank. Two separate proposals. I did ask Dan Kitchen to be here tonight to answer questions. DDA board talked briefly about the Red Apple Road tank maintenance agreement. Did not really make a decision other than that formulated an ad hoc committee consisting of Tim Fogarty and Bob Yates to review that contract and make recommendations. Kind of ran out of time in their meeting to really go into any depth on it. I guess if you look at page 4 of the contract, you get to the price and the fees there and the payment terms, but you also want to look at what's covered in that, what you get for that. I read both of those contracts over fairly carefully, and there's a lot there. I know that Mr. Wilson worked with Ludington and the City of Ludington and Utility Service Group to write contracts for the City of Ludington on their water tanks. And I did speak with Kurt Malzahn, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Pretty close.
Okay. And they have 3 500,000 gallon tanks that service Ludington. They entered into a contract with the Utility Service Group in December, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say December, I'm not sure what month it was, but it was in the year 2010. And, you know, I was interested to hear what Kurt had to say in terms of their satisfaction with the contracts, with the company, what was being done and so forth. And basically, they've been very satisfied, very happy. He said they pretty much do what they promise in the contracts. They had, in the first year, they had one of their tanks sandblasted inside and out and recoated. Their second tank, they had sandblasted and recoated on the inside and then just recoating on the outside. And then their third tank, they had the same thing done, sandblasting and recoating for the inside and then just recoating on the outside. And they did for proposals to have that done by an outside contractor to see what it would be. And they only got 2 bids back, and covering sandblasting and painting, it was going to be in the neighborhood of $400,000. So, they've got everything done on all 3 tanks. They're paying the fee up front for the first 5 years, like is proposed in these contracts, which covers the company then is pretty much footing some of the bill of having that done. After the 5th year and the 6th year, the price drops, and for example, in our case, it drops from the Filer City tank from $36,747 per year for the first 5 years. It drops to $16,458 in year 6 payment for the next, I believe it's the next 3 years or up through contract year 9. And he said, basically what's happening then is we're building equity in that program for the next repayment, because it's recommended that they're repainted every 10 years. And so, they're building that equity to have that done again at the end of 10 years. Included in that are annual inspections to your tanks, pretty much 24/7 on-call emergency service provided by the company. And Kurt told me that I think it was in the first year, they had an issue in the winter. It was either January or February, Kurt said, where one of their tanks froze up and sprung a leak. And they contacted Utility Service Group. They came up. The tank had to be emptied in order to address the leak issue. They took care of it. He said they were there for 24 hours, took care of it, and that was it. No cost, no additional cost. So those kinds of services are included in the contracts. I guess that's just the information I wanted to share in general with the board, because I had questions in my own mind, about these contracts and the company and so forth, and knowing that Ludington was dealing with them, I made that call, so I wanted to share that with you in terms of what I found out. I did ask Dan to be here tonight. You saw his presentation, the reception of Dale and Dean at the November meeting. I do have a copy of that on my laptop if you want to see it. But at any rate, I asked Dan to be here to answer any questions that you have, clarify things, whatever. So at this point, I'm just going to turn it over to the board members. Your thoughts, concerns, questions?
Would you like to talk about the adjustment of the annual fee? Let me see.
Yes, so the first 5 years are set for the upfront work to bring your 2 water towers up to TNA standards. And then based upon the size of your water tower, the style, and the location, we develop that base fee. And that is set for 3 straight years. And then there's an inflationary adjustment that's for the next 3 years that's capped at 5% per year. So we do it on a 3-year scale because it's easier to budget for. Instead of having a new number every single year to put into your budget, And it's easier for us as well for invoicing purposes to have that base fee set for 3 straight years. So at year 10, we would come back and repaint the tank, and then you only have to pay a small base fee. Instead of paying a few $100,000 again, and you get a 1-year warranty, you just get that base fee with ongoing maintenance, emergency service, and that's kind of what that covers.
Thank you.
And our tanks are both petosphere type tanks. Leighton's, I think, are 2 of them are leg tanks.
Correct.
And one's a on-ground tank.
Yeah, ground storage reservoir.
Okay, and basically the petosphere is a little easier tank to do that kind of maintenance on.
Yeah, the give or take 12 to 15% more expensive to maintain an old legged tank than is a petosphere tank, just because there's less steel to be repainted. Less things that need to be upgraded in regards to safety and sanitary and structure components part of the tank. So the petosphere is probably the most economical and user-friendly style of tank for the north sections of the country.
Terry, if they were we had the in-the-ground tank, could we get rid of that then and have switch the plumbing a little bit so we wouldn't have to be able to shut it off in that pit?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question.
We have a valve in the pit
Right.
that we can't hardly get to all the time because they want you to have all this stuff in. Could we get rid of that valve in the pit and sort of run the pipes differently so that inside that well we could shut it down?
So over here,
Yeah.
I think inside, if I understand Charlie correctly, I think we can do that now. I'm not positive.
I'm just wondering because I'd get rid of the valve in the ground.
It'd probably be better to direct that question to either Mark Bauer or to Chuck Nicholson.
Yeah, I'll do that. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, concerns?
I guess I would just add that, last month I indicated that there would be some changes I wanted in the contract. USG, as they did in Ludington, were acceptable to all of those changes that I requested.
And we're still waiting for Dave Richards to come back with how we would pay for this. And he promised to be back to us by this Friday.
Okay, and one thing that I should mention that Dan explained was if we enter into these contracts, if I understand correctly, if we enter into these contracts, we don't make that base payment until
basically our inspector signs off on the completion of that job, which won't be till spring, summer, fall of next year, as well as yourself, whoever would sign off on the final for that tank. And then we would go up to your next tank to start performing that maintenance. So the first invoice wouldn't be until maybe 6 to 8, 10 months from now, from today. But one of the biggest benefits that a lot of municipalities enter into these agreements, and I believe Ludington did the same thing, is right around December, November, right before it starts freezing, they enter into the agreements in planning for the next fiscal year, calendar year. But it locks in with the 2014 rates that we've set for maintaining these assets, and it also gets you under warranty. If your tank freezes and something happens in the middle of winter, it would be on our dime, even though we haven't invoiced you or done any work on the water storage tanks. It would be under contract, and as soon as the contracts were signed.
And I know, we've talked a little bit about developing an asset management plan for our entire water program here, because there's nothing in place in that regard. And that's one of the things that DEQ has been, hounding us about. And we did meet with Bob Schneider from DEQ and Cadillac here back some time ago, and I'm trying to think, was it Tom or Dean, one of you two said it?
I came in late, Tom.
I was here.
Okay. And I had more conversation with Scott Conradson this past week, and that's one service that Bob Schneider will provide the township free of charge, sitting down and helping us walk us through the process of developing the asset management plan. If we do that, my thought was initially, okay, do we do that and see where that all shakes out, and then determine if we need a separate plan for our water towers. But in talking with Dan, and that kind of makes sense to me, is that then that would be like a subcategory under our general asset management plan that would, setting our rate structure and so forth, that would help to ensure that we have the funds to cover the maintenance agreement with Utility Service Group on our water tanks. So, that's something that, in talking with Mr. Conradson, I haven't heard back from Mr. Schneider yet, but he said his calendar's probably booked out at least 2 to 3 months right now, so we might not, start getting into the nuts and bolts of that for another 3 months. But if we're not having any work done on the Utility Service Group until the warm weather months, which we definitely don't want to do because we've seen the results of that with this water tower. It was, done too late in the fall, and consequently it's peeling and everything on the inside. That does give us time to develop an asset management plan in general, and then incorporate these contracts within that plan. That's just another thought that I'm throwing out. So
You haven't taken these, have you, Richard, and put your thoughts into them?
Yes.
You have.
These copies that you have here incorporate all of the changes that I've requested the rest of you make.
And they were in agreement? You were in agreement, Dan?
Yeah, I think you had to boost the price a little bit to cover the cost of the bonds,
yeah.
but that was the only change on that.
So all that's left is how do we pay for it?
Well, you have the DEA for one.
How did that go? Were they
Red Apple
accepted?
Road.
I think they are to some extent. To what extent exactly, I think that's what they want to explore.
You have some control of that through the budget process. You're supposed to approve a budget from the DDA every year, and if they don't budget, and one of the projects in the amendment TIF plan and the development plan is the water system in the DDA, and that's part of what the purpose of the DDA is that we've approved. So, you have the lever to pry some of, if not to mix my metaphors too hard, but, if their hands are on the piggy bank a little too tight, there are ways to pry that money loose through the budget process.
And I think Tim indicated too that, the TIF capture, their annual TIF capture would cover.
Well, either that or that, they've got a reserve that's got to be
Right.
7 figures by now again, so,
That would be great, because then we would just have to fund the one here on Fire City Road.
So they, they did not take action to, vote on that contract, on them picking up the cost of that contract for the Red Apple Tower, but, their ad hoc committee's going to look at it now. I know Dan can shed some light on this, but from my understanding is if we go into 2015, the rates, these costs could change a little bit.
Yeah, we're our calendar year company, and typically we make our adjustments come January 1 for maintaining these assets.
Okay, and those adjustments, is that what relates to the 5% max?
And that's more of an internal cost, based on what we're projecting oil cost to be, diesel fuel, cost of paint, materials, everything that we see, the components that it takes to maintain these assets.
Yeah, they're not subject to the 5% cap until you sign the contract, so.
And that wouldn't be until year 9.
Yeah.
So you'd be locked in with these rates for 8 full years. And if it comes down to the point where one point or another where something happens, all you have to do is come back to us and say, well, this happened with our well, and we need to pour another $20,000 into it that we don't have in our current water fund. Can you make an adjustment, an addendum to the 5-year spread, and maybe make it a 6-year spread or 7-year spread? When it comes to those type of financial components, we can be very flexible. It's very easy to do, and we do it a lot.
Funny you should use that as an example. We just had a rebuild of our well house too.
Well, we
To the tune of $30-some thousand.
we have an identical program for wells as well, so maybe we can talk about if that were to happen with us under our well asset management plan. If a pump goes down, if something needs an emergency cleaning, inspection, it would be covered just the same way the warranty's covered in the tank asset management plan. It reduces the risk, and you don't want flat cost.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions, thoughts you want to share, input?
How would we get this in before the end of the year if we don't have another meeting until January?
Well, we'd have to, I guess we'd either have to call a special meeting for this month, or we have to make a decision tonight whether we want to do this or not.
Is there a 30-day out clause?
No, there isn't. I've read the contract, sure.
Darn.
Well, you're not, if you wanted to cancel, you just cancel it. If we didn't do any work, I mean, we're not going to put our foot down and say you got to do it or do this and that. If something happens, it happens.
10 years is a long time.
We have a very, I mean, we do a lot of work in the state, and we do never want to have the image of trying to force something upon anybody. So if something happens where you can only afford one tank, just say you would push out the project for the other tank till 2016.
The red apple tank isn't as important, is it, right now to do as the 5 tank?
It's not in as bad a condition as this tank, particularly inside. Outside, there's some
Rust.
surface rust.
But that will be held then until the DDA decides.
The only concern about extending a coating system too long, and you got freeze-thaw cycles, and you got Mother Nature beating up the coatings on the outside, is there's a risk in regards to pushing the coatings out year after year where they become non-overcoatable, and if you can't overcoat a tank, you have to blast it to bare steel, and that's about 3 or 4 times more expensive. Ludington had to go through that pain 4 years ago, and it's very, very expensive. That's why you try to be proactive and painting these tanks on the outside about every 10 years to preserve the under layers so you can keep good to excellent adhesion so you can overcoat them many times over the years.
From my experience, this doesn't get any cheaper the longer you wait on it. It's kind of like when your car starts to rattle.
It's time.
Or you lose one valve stem and you have to buy the other tire.
Right there,
Well, what are we waiting?
Yeah, I had a note here, Dan, that I'd written in reading this. The cost of the first 5 years of this contract, and I'm speaking just on the Filer City Road contract. The first 5 years cost is $183,735. So my question is, does that equal the cost of the work to be done in the first year?
No,
You would do?
when we spread out all that work on Filer Road, we would plan on repainting the outside, repainting the interior dry, doing the repairs, which includes an active mixing unit to help keep uniform water age and consistent water age and eliminate icing in the wintertime. Then the interior, I believe we have slated for the interior wet for year 4. So what we did was we took basically all that work, spread it out over 5 years, and then we included 3 base fees to that spread because those base fees are built in equity towards that next renovation down the road. And that's where we came up with that number.
So, if I'm understanding you, then the work you would do on this tower in the first 5 years, your cost would exceed what we're putting into it in those first 5 years?
It'd be the actual work we would put into it would be less than those if you add them all up because you're building that base fee up for that future renovation down the road.
Okay.
That makes sense?
But I think the DDA will kick in money anyway.
Well, I've had discussion with a couple of individuals, and their indication to me was that they're not opposed to helping me share the costs.
Okay.
And that tower does service the DDA district. And the biggest thing is when I looked at, I had some real questions on this, thinking, okay, let's wait, look at what we come up with in an asset management plan down the road and then see where we're at, if we can afford to do this, on our own, subcontract and so on. But when I talked with the gentleman from Ludington in terms of what they were looking at for cost to have that done on a subcontract basis, it's so much more costly. And then, on top of it, you're getting all these other benefits, the annual inspections, the 24/7 emergency call service, the mixing, which is a positive, and I think there was something else in there about dealing with the coatings on the inside and the buildup of sediment and
Correct.
and so forth, which, if we look to subcontract somebody to come in and repaint our water tower or sandblast and repaint, that's probably it. We're probably not looking at all these other services.
Yeah, usually you have to pay anyway.
I know it's a big cost. It's a hard pill to swallow, but the flip side is much less pleasant to even think about. If we had some of these things to do on our own. And I did do an online webinar about 2 or 3 weeks ago on water systems and asset management, and it was very helpful in terms of really enlightening me in terms of why you do those things and how you sell it to the public. How do we look at our water system? I mean, if you someday went to the faucet and turned it on and there was no water, I mean, it affects so many different aspects of our lives that we don't think about. We just take for granted.
And we know we have an older system in a lot of places, and
yeah, we do have an older system, and there's a lot of maintenance things that need to be done to keep it up to standard, to provide that quality and assurance to residents of the water supply.
And our tanks are a big deal too. It's not the pumps, it's the tanks.
Both.
And every time you get one painted or something like that, costs a lot of money anyway. So, and then if you let it go, then you have to sandblast the whole tank.
Yeah. And when we had them power washed by the Federal group from the southern part of the state, we paid, I want to say it was around $8,000 just to have those 2 power washed. And I spoke with those people at that time about repainting, when do we need to have that done and what's it going to cost? And it wasn't a pretty picture. They said you should be looking at having those redone within the next 2 years, and looking at probably spending in the neighborhood of $90,000 a piece. That's just for paint. That doesn't cover any of these other services. It doesn't cover sandblasting if it's needed.
Didn't we have a schedule from the last meeting about the payments, how the payments work, like for each month? I mean, each year there was
Yeah,
a...
that's specified in here too. We can determine whether we want to do it on
Monthly or
a monthly,
quarterly.
quarterly,
Right.
They prefer quarterly?
annually. If we don't make a decision on it, they will bill us quarterly on it, according to the contract.
Do you have a preference?
Not really.
Or, okay. Sometimes more revenue comes in certain times of the year. You got more water demand in the summertime, so you got more revenue coming in. It's different everywhere we go.
Well, that's true with us.
Well, I do quarterly water transfers now.
Okay, well, that would line right up.
So if we could line it up for the same time.
The first payment would be due upon completion, maybe a month later, and it's for the 1 full year payment. And then from there, it's quarterly, from there on out.
Okay.
And if I understand this correctly, if for example, you were to work on this tank, let's say in July, mid-July, then when that work is completed, we would be billed for it, and then going forward, it would be, the contract year would be July 1st of each year.
It's the anniversary date of the signature, when it was executed.
Oh, okay, then, yeah, I got that, I misunderstood, I got it wrong, okay. The
Yeah,
signature date.
what he's saying, though, the way this works, if I understand the contract, and I think I do, is you sign the contract, say tonight, and they don't get, you get the warranty starting tomorrow on everything. But you don't get billed for anything until they're done with the first year's work on this tank, for example, the Filer Road tank. You get then billed for the first year, which is
37.
Is this the Filer?
36,747.
Red Apple Road, but yeah, whatever.
36,747.
36,747.
Yeah.
So if they got done in the end of July, you'd get billed in August for $36,747, and then quarterly thereafter, you'd get billed for a quarter of the 36, or 9,000 quarterly going forward for the next 4 years, and then that drops down to an annual fee of 16, payable quarterly is 4,000 a quarter after that.
That's correct.
I think every 30 years I can read a contract.
Any other questions? Then, if you wish to go forward with this at this time, I would entertain a motion. Otherwise, we would have to call a special meeting to address this if we chose not to address it tonight.
Well, it looks
To lock
like
in these
we
rates.
can't afford not to do this. I mean,
I'll make a motion that we enter the 2 contracts for the Filer Road and Red Apple Road tanks.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Hachinsky, seconded by Skier to enter into a contract with Utility Service Group for both Red Apple Road and Filer City Road water tanks maintenance agreements. Discussion.
I think we still should, go to the DDA.
Yes.
Oh, certainly.
Yes.
And not to switch subjects on you, but this is related. I think I spoke to you earlier about this. You guys probably really need to consider doing a water rate study. not just a comparison of what we charge versus what the city charges versus
Well,
what
I think-
Ludington charges and so on.
I think Scott Conradson, when I talked to him before Terry did that very same day, talked about that,
Yes.
about the water rate.
You need to take a look at, okay, these are the costs for maintaining the water
Right.
tanks. These are what we need, these are the costs of what we need to do to upgrade the valves, put in bigger pipes where we don't have good fire flow and so on, and work that back into what what you need to raise from the district, and then slowly build your rates to that level so that you've got that plus the debt service that's still outstanding and all of that kind of stuff covered.
My understanding of the asset management study and plan, that would be part of that, yes.
Yeah, and there are companies that will come in and do that for you, or accountants and so on that will come in and do that for you. It's not just a matter of comparing what our rates are versus other municipalities. It's what are our costs going forward going to be, and what kind of money are we going to need to raise in order to cover those costs. And that's, you sort of take the costs projected out as far into the future as you can see, and then work backwards from that, as opposed to starting with the rates and then seeing what you can afford. It's what is it that you've got to spend, and then
To maintain the assets you have.
Yeah, figure out how to get the money to do that.
Yeah, and that's a service that DEQ provides free of charge.
Oh, is it?
And if we had talked before about Michigan Rural Water Association,
Yep.
For us, for our number of water customers, our cost, membership cost would be, I think it was $350, and that's then one of the benefits of that. They provide that service also.
Do that?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good idea.
Any other discussion? You ready for a vote? Call the roll, please.
Kaczynski,
Yes.
Skara,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Ball, yes. Cruz,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Kalinowski.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passed.
Thank you. Certainly appreciate the business, and we look forward to working with the township here. If I may, a couple things that you guys know, to Michigan Rural Water, from our perspective as a company, best company to work with, partnership with, for $350 for their water rates that they come out and do it. They can come out here very quickly, and they work with systems this size all across the state. And one of the more professional nonprofits in the state of Michigan, and they do an outstanding job. So coming from me and seeing them working side by side with them over the years, it's I would recommend that you consider using them and being part of that committee. They're fantastic. The second thing, the logos. We have all winter to work on that. I know the Red Arrow tank, they're going to want a brand new logo. And rendering logos, you may think it's easy. You just got a logo, you put it up on the computer, you look at it, you make some changes and colors. It can push a project out a year or two because of trying to get on the same page and everybody on the same page. So if there's something that the DDA wants to get started with, just please have them email me the starting logo, and we'll start putting it up on the tank and showing you in 3D dimensional what it would look like for that tank, and get that ball rolling, because that can take a long time.
Okay, that's a good idea.
But again, thank you. I certainly appreciate the business. And
I like blue.
I do too. The color of water, right?
Dan, I appreciate you coming up again tonight. Thank you.
But I think that rural development is the way to go.
Okay, under new business, we have some appointments to make this evening on some of our different commissions and boards. Under A, we have Upon supervisor's recommendation, consideration of approval of the appointment of one planning commission member to serve a 3-year term ending December 31st of 2017. And there's only one position open on the planning commission, and we only had one applicant for that planning commission, and that was Krista Johnson, who is serving on the planning commission currently. And it would be my recommendation that we approve the appointment of Krista Johnson for the one commission opening.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Cruz, second by Skiera to approve supervisor's recommendation of appointing Krista Johnson to the planning commission to serve a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2017. Any discussion? Okay.
You don't.
Don't need a- it's not good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item B is consideration of approval of the appointment of 3 Board of Review members to serve 2-year terms ending December 31st of 2016. And you have in your packet the applications that came in, and I believe there were 6. Yeah,
6.
6. And you have applications in front of you from Jack Ball, Elizabeth Allen, Susan Mark, Gail Polk, and Deborah Maxim, and Mary Wisniewski, the 6th. Okay? And we need to appoint 3 for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2016.
Okay, one at a time, please.
Yes. And I would entertain a motion then for appointment of one of those 3 positions.
Make a motion for Susan Mark.
Is there a second to Dean's?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Cruz, second by Kolonowski to appoint Sue Mark to one of the 3 Board of Review positions. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, motion for the second position on Board of Review.
I'd like to nominate Betty Allen.
I'll second that.
A motion by Kuczynski, second by Skiera, to appoint Betty Allen to one of the 3 positions. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And to fill the 3rd position on the Board of Review, I'll entertain a motion.
Jack Ball.
I'll second that.
Motion by Cruz, second by Skiera, to appoint Jack Ball to the 3rd Board of Review position. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C is approval of the appointment of two Downtown Development Authority members to serve a 4-year term ending December 31st of 2018. And those positions come under recommendation of the supervisor with approval by the board. So I would share with you, first of all, that we have 2 applicants for one position that they are eligible for, and that is the position currently filled by Carl Krebs. That's the member-at-large position, so they do not have to live in the township, they do not have to be in the DDA district. It's a position at large, and we have 2 applications for that position. I really don't feel we can go wrong in that. The 2 applications, one is from Larry Bielski, and the other is from Sarah Kaltunis. Larry lives in the city of Manistee and is a businessman, former businessman in the township as well as the city. Also a former member of the DDA, I believe when it was first developed. And Sarah is an engineer at Packaging Corporation and a resident of the township living on Wildwood. Like I said, I feel comfortable in recommending either of those 2. I did discuss it at the DDA meeting a little bit, got some input from the DDA board members, and I think the general consensus was there that they like the idea of Larry Bielski, with the background he had previously on the DDA and the business background, and the fact that they felt he could assume that position on the ground running, ready to go, without a whole lot of training or on-the-job learning. So my recommendation, therefore, would be to appoint Larry Bielski to the open position on the DDA to fill Carl Krebs' position. And I would entertain a motion to that effect, or a motion.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Your motion is to
Support Larry Bielski.
Support Larry Bielski. Okay. Second, Tom. So we have a motion by Dean Cruz, second by Ed Williams, to support supervisor's recommendation of Larry Bielski to fill the open seat on the DDA. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, we do have one other opening on the DDA board that is unfilled because we did not have any applicants for it. And that position is currently filled by Tony Galliardo. The stipulation for that position is that they have to be a resident of the DDA district, not a property owner, but a resident. And so we did not get any applications for that. Lynn has a ad ready to go in the News Advocate for tomorrow. We will be submitting that ad and taking applications again for that position. So I guess we'll be waiting until the January meeting to act upon that open position.
Well, Tony didn't really know, did he?
Well, he was not.
He wrote a letter and said he was not.
He was not going to, and then it sounds like he has reconsidered that. But obviously, in fact, I think he might have said that he had an application ready to go.
Yeah. But
the deadline is passed for that filing, so we have to post it again, and then he'll have to reapply. Okay, where are we at? Item D, consideration of approval of a resolution of the Charter Township Fire Board of Trustees pursuant to resolution number 2001-06A and 1954 Public Act 188 as amended, redetermining the total cost of services for the year 2015 and directing the supervisor to extend such costs upon the Horizon Point special assessment role. And that proposal is, or that resolution is in your packet. And it's pretty much standard operating procedure. So
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Cruz, second by Kalinowski to approve the resolution extending costs for 2015 to Horizon Point Special Assessment Role. Any discussion? All in favor? I'm sorry, yeah, we do need a roll call for that. So Shirley, would you call the roll, please?
Williams?
Yeah.
Walker?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Paul? Yes. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Kalinowski?
Yes.
Shirley, I think we need to look at that and see when that special assessment district is expiring. I think, as I recall, wasn't it 15 years? The district only lasts so long, and then we have to renew it. And it sticks in my head that it was 15 years, which means we need to...
Well, this was April 2001.
Right.
So we're getting close.
We're getting close.
Okay,
We need
we'll
to
make a note of that.
make a note to look at that.
Resolution 2001.
Right, yeah, we created the district in 2001 when they built the project up there, but...
Should be due next year.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll require a couple of notices to Horizon Point and a public hearing and so on.
Take care of looking that up.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
Okay. Public comment.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Bill. Same to you and your family.
Highly disappointed with the board's approval of the board of review members being put back in place after all the problems that we had last year. I mean, the one new nomination is great, but putting the two people back in that were a large source of the problem that the veterans experienced during all this over the last year almost seems like a slap in the face to the veterans all over again. So I'd just like to say I'm highly disappointed with the board's recommendations for the people on the board.
Thank you for your comments. Dwayne? Betty?
I thank the board for their vote of confidence in reappointing me to the board of review. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Betty. Anyone else? Any other public comment? Okay. Any other business come before the board? Anything else, Dean?
No?
Dale?
No.
Shirley? Ruth? Ed? Tom?
We should put the tires that we got now, I think we should put them up for sale. We should put
Yes.
that on a bid.
Yeah.
Instead of storing them and holding them, but I think we should have a low bid of $300. We should get $300 for them.
Okay, we have, that is in the building and grounds minutes, the building grounds voted to do that, and I just haven't passed that information out to them to get it in the paper.
Okay, rather than store them and try to...
Well, we checked with the fire department, and Ron said that they weren't going to really be useful for their truck, so that was what we kind of decided at the building.
And I talked to John, he said the new tires, they're working good, so...
Yeah. Great.
He showed me the difference in what he could.
I just have one thing, and I never finished my list. I was going to make a list. I got thinking here the last couple of weeks, because this is the second anniversary of the year that I took office, took over in 2012, and I got thinking about the things that this board has accomplished, and I think all of the boards and commissions of the township, the planning commission, the building and grounds, township board, the DDA, I just think in the 2 years we have really accomplished a lot. And I tried to write some things down, and my list is real short. You know, I was thinking the first year we washed the water towers, got those cleaned up because they were really an eyesore and they needed cleaning badly. We got a new roof on this building, which was leaking and was causing lots of problems. The walls were almost to the point of no repair, and we got that taken care of, which was great. I'm just thinking of things through the township board. The rec center now, we have a new roof on it. We have a new rebuilt well house 2. We have a generator now on well house 4 that should keep us out of trouble in any emergency situations with our water.
The valve's been opened up between the city and us.
Pardon?
Valve has been opened
Yes.
up.
Scott Conradson's real sore point. We did finally get the valve open. The cross connection between the city and the township
How
has
many
been opened
gallons of
exercise.
WD-40 did you take?
Well, we got it all.
They got it open.
We got a new township truck, which the old one was nickel and diming us, and you're welcome. My memory,
The
is
leaf-
not
the
good.
leaf thing
Oh,
here?
yeah, the steps for the
steps.
leaf dumpster is such an improvement. So much easier to get up and down and safer for our residents. That was big. Del, am I?
Park entrances?
Yep, parking.
Park entrances, we have beautiful looking park entrances, gates and so forth. So I just want to compliment this board on everything you've done, the time you've put in, the decisions you've made on behalf of the township, and that extends to the planning commission, the EPA, the building and grounds. It's all because working together, we've been able to work together, we've accomplished a lot, and my hats are off to all of you. I appreciate it very much.
Even the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's your first.
Yeah, although that was really taken care of.
Now, the road, though, we took care of most of that.
Yeah, so,
Is Magoon Creek all locked up now?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a lock on
yes.
Yep.
the restroom and stuff like that? Okay.
I think, I'll double check.
Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you, Keith, same to you and yours. Okay, if there's nothing else to come before the board, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion.